Hey,
Welcome back.
Preacher's Hour podcast. Man,
You say that every time.
I love it.
And I
just
always
don't,
wait for you to say
because
Preacher's Hour podcast.
I think it has to be said. Like, even I remember when we were talking about, like, we don't introduce ourselves every episode.
Oh, yeah. I don't
We got to
think
kind of
did
get back
last
to
time.
doing that.
Yeah.
So the thing is, like, when people hear us, they're like, oh, man, I listen to Preacher Hour podcast, but I have no idea
Who is these dudes?
who are the hosts. So introduce yourself.
I'm Jeff Copeland.
And I am Brandon Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
And we are Preacher's Hour. That was supposed to be in unison.
How was I supposed to know? We didn't practice.
Just
You didn't
thought
tell
that
me.
was a
Anyway,
mental thing.
next time it's going to be perfect. Guys, we are also joined, not specifically on the episode, but our good brother, Josiah Freeland, is going to be doing all the cinematography for our podcast. If you checked out our last YouTube video, it was way better.
Way
than
better.
the ones that I was doing, because I am not Josiah. I don't have the gift that he has, that God's given him. But
It's got an amazing gift.
Yeah. So moving forward, our YouTube is gonna be like way better.
Yeah.
Even than the last video, because
Even our clips on Instagram, all that kind of.
it's all gonna be.
We're
improved.
leveling up.
Yeah, we're trying to just make this as high quality as possible, because it's something that Will told us when he was on, about like everything you do, like do with everything you got.
Yeah.
Especially if you're doing it for God. So
Yeah.
so Josiah's here. We might be referring to him or looking at him at some points, but he's just in the room. For those of you who are just listening,
For y'all who can't see him,
Audio-wise.
he is there, but
Yeah.
you just can't.
he up in here.
He in here.
Yeah. So today's episode is going to be. I apologize in advance, but I'm not really sorry. Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry.
Because the climate that we are recording these last few episodes in, you almost can't talk about anything else. So
It's difficult.
yeah,
I saw some guy who used to be in the NBA, and they were talking about the NBA starting back up, and he was like, "Nah, like that's gonna take the attention off of what we're trying to do
a
here."
lot of the players, big time players, are saying they don't want to go back because they don't
Yeah.
want to take attention off of this. They
I
wanna
think
get
that would be a great stand to be like, no,
It would be very powerful, because them owners,
they're gonna be
like,
like,
hold on, guys,
Which
our
is-
pockets are hurting. We need y'all to get back to. I don't want to go down that road, because I'm gonna say some stuff that's offensive. White,
sorry,
and black,
not sorry.
Like I'm really not, but
No, which is crazy because I think about just the overall like how businesses work. I mean, people are under contracts. I get that part, but they're still like millionaires. So at the end of the day, there's like, fam, I guarantee you, like with LeBron James, I'm not going back, and the owner tried to make him go back, he'd just be like, "What other team would like to take?"
he's literally like the 5th highest paid athlete on the planet by any sport. So good luck with that.
What?
The dude has $1 billion contract with Nike or something like that. He's the first ever. It's a lifetime contract.
What?
Yeah.
Oh,
Anyway.
God.
Yeah. So you're good luck with that one. And
So
somebody,
LeBron, if you need-
another player actually tweeted and posted that if LeBron says we're going back, then we're going back. Like, let's be real. This is about business. He's the king. If he says we're going back, if he says we're not going back, he's going to be the one that decides it.
That's crazy, but that's so true.
Yeah.
Dang.
So our episode today is going to be called Both and.
Both and.
So Brandon and I have been a part of a bunch of conversations. It's been an ongoing conversation, I feel like, for the last like 3 weeks.
Man, it's been
About all this stuff going on. But we had an interesting conversation yesterday about kind of just what our response, what we should want. And I alluded to it on a previous episode, as far as like, what can we actually do about all the stuff that's going on when it comes to like racial relations and things like that. And from a Christian perspective, right?
Yeah.
So like, what should we be doing? Patient asked me a super interesting question. I'm going to ask you right now.
okay.
He said, so the question that he's been getting a lot from his white brothers and sisters is, okay, like we see what you're talking about. Like, we get it. Like we clearly see that there is a racial problem. What would you like us to do about it?
Wash our feet. No, I'm just kidding.
So Brandon, what you specifically, what do you want from a white? I'm gonna tell what I said after, but
Okay. What do I want from them? I think most more than anything is to understand that as a family, we are obligated to the well-being of each other. And if anyone in the family is being taken advantage of or being mistreated, it is our job to see that kind of injustice and like speak up against it, especially in the family. So like I don't think that it doesn't really matter how much you go talk about people outside the family, because they're not in our family. But the people who are in our family need to know that this is how we operate. If you see someone in your family, which makes sense if you think about it as a family, everyone in your family, if someone is like really doing bad, no one just like, oh, that's just Uncle Carl. You know what I'm saying? Like, Uncle Carl just going to be down there. No, I mean, in a good family, what you're supposed to do is say, Uncle Carl, you are tripping. Like, get your butt in here and let me help you back to rehabilitation or whatever it is, which is what many families do with putting their kids in rehab, putting their parents in homes where they can be taken care of. Like, it happens, but we don't think about the body of Christ as a real family. We kind of think of it as like this abstract type of thing.
Wow. Okay, we're going to definitely have to go down that hole that you just opened up, which is very good. So I like that. So what I told to answer the question was, what I would want from my white brothers and sisters who get it, who understand that there is a problem when it comes to how black people are treated in this country. All I want from you is to talk to your fellow white people.
Yeah.
Like, get people in your family or people who whatever connections, or your coworkers or whatever the case may be. Like, you as a white person who understands what's going on, I need you to tell other white people.
Yeah.
Like, educate them. They can't hear it from me. They don't want to hear it from you.
Gather together. Yes, gather, and the word of the Lord came to them.
But that's what I would want is you as a person who is in the privileged part of society, who understands, like, it has to come from you. Like, you've got to tell other people. Really cool. Me and my wife this morning, we were out shopping, going to different furniture stores, and there's a protest all along Blackstone. And I would say like 85% of people were white.
Wow.
And they were like holding up like signs, and it was really interesting to see the different signs. This was Sunday morning. So some people, I saw somebody had like a Imago Day. Just said Imago Day on it. Black Lives Matter. A lot of different like scriptures and things like that. And then I saw other people had like Black Trans Lives Matter.
Oh yeah.
And like all these other, like you would say, not religious type of signs. They're both protesting the same thing. They're all together. But it was just interesting, like, to see like most of them were white, and like it was really interesting to be driving by as a black person, and we would like stop at the stoplight, and they look at us and see that we're black, and they're just kind of like, yeah, hey, this is for you guys. And like everybody's honking and stuff like that. It was just really interesting. But that it encouraged me a little bit. I was like, okay, cool. Like you're the ones that we need to be really not leading this, but to be a major part of any type of change, and especially coming from Christians, like white Christians.
Yeah, I think that's super important, and it definitely pushes the wave forward. But just the idea, I mean, not even idea, the fact that there are people who don't look like us helping support us, it's encouraging. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, like, I'm encouraged by seeing white pastors talk about racial injustice. I'm encouraged when I hear about white ministers and just white people in general, like, standing up for what is right. And it's encouraging, and it actually encourages me to continue the conversation. So if white people don't say anything, I could see myself burning out really, really quickly. Yeah. It's like, okay, I'm going to talk about this, but nothing's going to happen. Yeah,
it's exhausting. Yeah, trying to convince people that there's a problem. Yeah, right. So it's much more energizing to have the people I'm trying to convince believe me, and then they're the ones trying to convince other people. Like, oh, man, that makes me want to keep going.
Which is kind of like the gospel, but once you get someone to believe, then they go out and make other believers, and you get this whole domino effect, which in turn makes it easier for everybody. And then whoever is like not on board, it's who did I hear this from? Can't remember, but basically it says like we finally get to see like who's really not with us, like who was in the trenches with us, or who was not in the trenches, but who was walking with us, but when it came to getting into the trenches, like they just stood at the top and it's like, yeah, man, like don't do that. Like you get to see that for reals, and you get to see like who's really like for the cause, not even for the cause, for the gospel. I mean, I don't want to make it seem like social justice is a movement. It's not a movement.
Okay, I'm really glad you said that.
I'm really like people like would say like, oh, are you with the Black Lives Matter movement? No, I'm with justice.
I'm with Jesus.
With Jesus.
He cares about everybody. So that's the whole point of this episode. It's the whole both and. So it's the full title. I got this from a video. I'm actually going to play it right now. It's the both and of evangelism and justice. So a lot of people think they're two separate things that can't go together. Either you're for justice, you're social person, or you're all about evangelism. Just preach the gospel. It's all. Stop worrying about racism is a sin problem. So don't worry. Just preach the gospel, and I'll take care of it.
Nah,
that's not. That's like saying all lives matter. As a response. Just go
as
sit
a
down.
response.
Yeah, go sit down. So I want to play this video. It's about 2 minutes long, and it's by one of my favorite preachers, Tim Keller, who, very sad, he had been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer about 2 weeks ago.
What? God, why are you? Oh, never mind.
Yeah,
I can question your method, but I can never question your motive.
Exactly. So I pray that he gets. I've already lost too many people that I look up to. Ravi's already gone. I don't want him to go as well. But Tim posted this. It was a snippet of a sermon he was giving. This is about 6 months ago. This is before COVID. This is before
it's probably
George Floyd.
Longer than 6 months ago. Too.
Yeah, probably was. So I'm just gonna play it right now, and then we'll talk after.
Yeah.
I've said that I believe that the primary reason I'm absolutely tracking with my friend, brother Kevin DeYoung. The primary thing the church is supposed to do is to preach the wrath of God against sin and to call people to repentance and to see people believe and have faith in Jesus Christ. It's also true that the Bible says, Jesus says, that Christians are supposed to be salt and light in the world. You know what salt does? Salt penetrates the world and keeps it from going... Salt goes into meat to keep it from going bad. Salt goes into meat to bring out the flavor and to keep it from going bad. And when Jesus says, you're the salt of the earth, he's talking about the fact that, yes, gathered together, we're preaching the gospel, but spread out, we're not only talking to people, our friends, about the gospel, but we're also loving our neighbor. We're also out there being good Samaritans. And it keeps society from going bad. It keeps it from becoming corrupt. To some degree. There's corruption to some degree. And therefore, what is the mission of the church? In one way, I'd say the mission of the church is to preach the gospel. What is the mission of the church? Not just gathered, but also scattered. Not just the church gathered as a body, but the church scattered all Christian individuals. It's to both do that in word and deed. Both, in other words, witness to the gospel not only by sharing faith and calling people to repentance. Yes, we're supposed to do that with our friends. But we're also supposed to be doing justice and caring for the poor. And it's when those two things come together that you really have a powerful mission. When the world sees Christians only evangelizing and not caring about society, not doing the Good Samaritan thing. When the world sees Christians only evangelizing, you know what they see? They actually see people who just care about increasing their tribe, increasing their market share, increasing their power. Now, that's not true. But from the outside, they don't have the Holy Spirit. What else are they going to think when they see you do evangelism and the church grows and grows and grows? They're going to say, I was just like every other business in the world, every other power block in the world, trying to get a bigger part of the market. But when they see us evangelizing and pouring ourselves out for the poor and the needy and caring about racial justice, when they see us doing both as Christians, then I think, frankly, the preaching of the gospel makes a lot more sense to them.
Hey, man.
You better preach, Tim.
That's my guy.
Preach every bit of that.
Man.
I think one thing that, and I'm pretty sure you had like questions and stuff pertaining to this, but one thing that like comes to mind, or when I was listening to this, is how the outside looks at the church. That is a huge, like, I'm gonna be honest, man. Like, we keep thinking that, okay, we could just preach the gospel and get more attendance. This is why people think that the church is just greedy. They think that this is a scheme to get people's money, because all they see is people coming into the building, paying their tithe, and then the pastor gets a new car. But if you saw the pastor out picking up people for church, or you saw the pastor out like feeding the homeless, if you saw the pastor out there doing what pastors should do, when you see the church doing what the church is supposed to do, you're more like, dude, no, that guy is for real. Like, this is not a show for him. And I think about this when I think about Francis Chan. Like, this is not a game to him. Like, he doesn't even care about how many people come to his church. He's like, I'm about the gospel and I'm about loving people. I'm going to show that in the most radical way possible. I'm going to literally leave pastoring. I'm going to leave this building and go, like, be the church outside these walls. And when I see that, I have a great respect for the man. And I think if anybody even who's maybe not even a believer, if you saw Francis Chan's life, you'd be like, that dude is crazy.
Something's about that dude.
But he's really about what he talks about.
And that's what we're supposed to look like.
so true. Missing a lot, man.
Yeah, man. So hearing that, we don't think about what we look like to the unsaved world. And that's kind of what I was trying to talk about an episode or two ago in the Justice episode. Like, what we don't realize is that if we can get things right in the church, it's going to be more effective from the outside looking in. They're looking at us, right? So like I said, if churches were talking about racial issues and they're trying to resolve them in their churches, right? And people from the outside who are not saved come in, or at the very least, people who are in contact with people who are on the outside, just that 1 degree of separation. Like, it's going to have more of an impact to actually bring heart change.
No doubt.
When it comes to racism.
For sure.
Right? But something else he talked about that I don't think we think about enough. We've talked about it on this podcast. This is going to be a even good reason to bring it back up. It's about scattering.
Yeah.
Like, we're so obsessed with being in the building.
Yeah.
Like,
or just being like gathered together.
Yeah. And it's just like, okay, we got to go to church instead of, no, we are church. Right? So, and like he said, we're supposed to be salt. I thought about this metaphor when he said this. If you just put a huge clump of salt all together, concentrated on one part of your steak, that's disgusting. On anything. Just a big old mound of salt.
Yeah.
We do. We just literally get as much salt as we can and we gather it together as close to as possible.
Yeah.
In one place. That can't taste good. And it can't bring out the flavor on the rest of the meat.
Yeah. And it's going to ruin the spot where it's at.
Yeah.
So this is the weirdest, the craziest thing. You remember when I went to South Carolina? From, I don't even know what it was for. Family reunion?
Yeah, it's family reunion.
Yeah. On our way back to California, coming back to California, before we left, my Uncle Howard gave me that exact same analogy.
Wow.
And he was like, what does it profit you? Because he was talking about AV at the time, because I was telling him about ministry and stuff. And he's like, man, it's going to be great when God finally like breaks that crystallite or whatever it's called, like when salt clumps together. He's like, it's going to be great when God breaks that. I'm like, that was rude. Why would you ever say that? He was like, it sounds like you guys are doing an amazing thing and amazing work where you are. But from what I'm hearing is that you guys all do that in the same vicinity, in the same area, with the same people. And it's like meat, literally, it's like meat, a steak with a big old clump of salt right in the middle. And I'm thinking like, well, what's wrong with that? It's fantastic. And he talks about like, in order to have shalom in your neighborhood, to have shalom in your city, there's no way that all the salt can be in one place. And he mentioned like the upper room and like the disciples being scattered and the church being scattered. Like, that had to happen.
Yes.
Or only, first of all, they would become the Pharisees, like all over again.
Yep.
But then they would become tasteless in the world that was needed to taste, and the world would not be preserved. Their little space would be preserved.
Yes.
They would know who God was, just like it was in the time that they were in.
Yes.
No one else knew about Yahweh like that. No other country, no one
knew about Jesus.
Zero. But because they were scattered, they were able to spread the gospel.
Yes.
I think this is what we miss out on a lot, is because we are in church and we're not really taught how to be the church outside the building. And I'm talking about practical stuff. And I'm not talking about that kind of like, I'm in the pulpit and I'm telling you what to do. No. I'm talking about I'm in the pulpit hey guys, I'm leaving the pulpit. Come, let me show you what it looks like to feed a homeless person. Let me show you what it looks like to help someone fix their car. Let me show you what it looks like to be in the presence of people that you claim to love and serve. Police. I think if we get back to the basics of what the gospel entailed in the beginning, we could have a church that literally makes change, like where the church has a voice again. The church doesn't have a voice because we're not everywhere.
And we're just talking to it ourselves,
Like
in our building. And I mean,
we don't even talk to the other building.
Man, there's other clumps of salt over there. Like, oh, we ain't talking to them.
I mean, imagine
we got to get more people to come here and be turning into salt.
I need a visual. I need a visual of this. I need someone to post a picture of a steak with just clumps of salt all over, and just be like,
and then show all the other parts that don't have salt rotting.
Yes.
And then you cook them, even if you cooked it right, and you're trying to eat it. It's like, man, this ain't got no flavor.
And then
that part's got way too salty. Ooh. That's what we do, though.
God, you're amazing.
Yes.
God is amazing. Like, we are messing up completely as a church. Like, we're not doing both and.
Yeah.
You know, we're choosing.
We're literally just doing evangelism, which nothing wrong with evangelism.
Nothing at all.
But the whole point of this Christian life, most of our church life should be spent out.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like
it is. The truth is, it is spent out, but we're not. But we don't even.
But here's the problem:
we're not actually being the
when
church.
I'm not in the building, I don't think I'm at church or I'm doing church. We have to be somewhere once a week, whether it's Friday with AV or Sunday at whatever local church people go to. And even the fact saying going to, we've got to stop saying that.
Yeah, it's like
everywhere you go is the church, because you are the church.
Change the language.
Like we've got to. Like, I was thinking about that this morning.
Yeah.
Like, we've got to change. Stop saying, hey, what church do you go to? No, like, where do you gather?
Yeah.
Like,
way
right?
better, because we are the church. And I don't think that it was ever intended to seem split up. Like, it wasn't supposed to seem like we were divided anyway. So when you would say, like, if you start saying stuff like, where do you gather? Because we are the church. And then you'd be like, hey, we want to gather with you. It's way better because you don't think about competition.
Yeah, it doesn't become. Unfortunately, because of nonprofit status and all this stuff, like we have and people having jobs and working for the organization. It naturally lends itself to, like, we've got to get more people in here to keep this thing going, and all we end up doing is like crowding. And I really feel like every church, including AV, you get to a point where you're not really adding new people, right? Like, it's pretty much Sunday after Sunday or Friday after Friday or week after week. You're just talking to the same people. Week after week. I mean, I remember feeling like that at my old church. It was just like, oh, you have any visitors, first-time visitors? And it'd be like 2 hands.
That would go
out of like 200 people. Oh, hey, okay, we got visitors here. And then it's just like, you're not really saying anything new that we haven't already heard. You're like, that phrase, preaching to the choir. That's all we do.
That's all we do.
Right? Instead of, like you said, like, we have to get to a point where we're always out, where the salt spreads out and it's able to preserve and flavor, bring out the flavor of the world around us that is dying and decaying. Yeah. Right? We can slow that process down. And then at the same time, by bringing the flavor out, we're bringing, like, rejuvenation,
no doubt,
to what's going on around us. Like, and that's where, yes, we have to evangelize, but we also have to, I love when he said, do justice. Yeah. That's a very biblical way of looking at it. It's Micah doing 6:8. Justice. Yes. You have to do it. So as a Christian, we should be the main ones concerned about justice. But, and we've talked about this, it's not, okay, who didn't get punished? Where's the cops that need to be punished? That's not what we're talking about. Let the worldly justice system handle that, even though it's going to mess it up completely.
It's terrible.
We are talking about restorative biblical justice, which is anybody I see that has been lowered down,
sought to, is looked at as lesser than,
whether it's by systemic issues or somebody did them wrong, whatever the case may be. The ultimate issue is sin. So if I see a homeless person or somebody who's poor or who's in need or or who's been hurt, like robbed, attacked, whatever the case may be, I have to go in and actively try to correct it, like bring them back up.
Yeah.
Right. And I have to, it's literally disadvantaging myself for the advantage of somebody else. Right. So
sounds a lot like Jesus.
Man, and this is so anti-American what I'm going to say.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you're rich, if you're super rich, and then you get saved, you should be all the stuff that I have. Because I always imagine that Bible Project video. Imagine it. I'm going to try to verbalize it so you guys who are just listening can understand what I'm saying.
Oh,
it's like a flat plane. Every single human being
on the same plane.
Should be on the same plane. But some people are higher than others, and as a result, people are lower than others, right? I don't care who you are. If you are super wealthy, if you can retrace it back, look back somewhere, somebody else was disadvantages for you to get advantage. You can go back generations in your family, whatever you got to do to look back. You got somewhere because at the expense of somebody else.
Yeah.
Right? So it's going to sound real communist, but everybody should be trying to level everything out.
Yeah.
So that our society is just according to God's standard, not human standard.
Yeah.
Right? Well, how is that fair? How do you blah, blah, blah?
But I wouldn't even take it to society. Let's just start with the church.
Yes.
How about in the church that we start to practice lowering everybody and raising people up so that we're on the same playing field? And that could look like, okay, you could have a job that pays well, but if there's someone who like ever loses their income, then you say, hey, how can I help? Like, this is something that we've like cultivated in our relationship. Like, if I'm in need, you help. If you're in need, I help. If patient's in need, I help. If he's like, we've practiced this and we're getting better. Like, we're nowhere close to actually doing it the right way, but we are practicing it. And what it is, we're practicing justice. We are doing justice. We're not doing equality. We're not doing equity. We are doing justice. And the thing that like messed me up, I'm gonna show you this picture while I talk about it.
I saw this.
It just blew my mind.
Yes, this was crazy.
It's like, so this is a picture. Ooh. This is a picture of a apple tree, and there's two people at the bottom of the apple tree. For inequality, the apple tree is growing in one direction toward one person, and all the apples are growing on one side of the tree. So it makes it really hard for the person on the opposite side of the tree to reach any apples, and there's hardly any there. What equality says is, okay, cool. Let's get them a ladder.
Both people
a ladder, the same size ladder. Well, yeah, it's the same size ladder, but the problem is there's still more apples on his side than the other person's side, and it's still difficult for me to reach all the apples on my side because the tree is leaning toward you and not and against me. And then it shows what equity is, and this is like, because I was a person that was like pro equity, like no, we need equity, we need to be elevated like higher because you've had so much more. But the problem with equity is the tree is still leaning. The problem is the tree, the system.
Yes.
Where we're getting it from, that is leaning. That has to be fixed. So in what justice looks like. So in this picture, it'll be on our YouTube. So if you guys want to check it out, but this picture shows that the person that is on the side of the tree where it's leaning toward them, they built something to straighten the tree out. And then they bring the other person up, elevate them so that they can still reach.
Ladder.
Yeah. So now they're adjusting. They fixed the system so that it's equal for everyone. This is what Jeff was talking about when he said the level playing field. Look, everyone has to have the idea that if I have more than enough, someone has less than enough. So if I have more than enough, let me take what I have to give to someone else. This is Jesus. And I think this is something that we miss when we talk about social justice and all these other things, because we don't understand that social justice and all this equality, all this kind of stuff, it is a part of God's plan.
Yes.
Like, just because Jesus didn't outwardly verbalize it. Yeah.
He did it.
He
went to
did
lepers.
justice.
He helped widows. He cared about children.
People who had less than.
He cared about people who were discriminated against racially, Samaritans.
Yes.
Greeks. All that stuff.
He did all of it. So we can't like say, because this is what I've heard, an argument, which I can't stand hearing it anymore, where like, well, did Jesus talk about racial inequalities?
Read the parable of the Good Samaritan. That's literally the point of the parable.
Like, I'm just like, yes.
You ain't paying attention.
He has actually lived it out. And what you think is a message about like everyone should just help everybody. No, you missed the point that Jews hated Samaritans.
Yes.
Like, you can't just read that story and not understand the fact that Jews were racist.
Yeah.
Like they hated Samaritans who were their cousins, which didn't even make any sense. But they hated them so much that if they saw one, they were like, nah, skip it. I'm not helping them. And then Jesus flipped the script and actually like makes the Jewish man the one who's in need, and then makes the Samaritan the one to come help the Jewish person.
And all the Jewish people, the Pharisee,
and the Levite,
they passed by. Also, the story of the woman at the well, like
Yes.
the fact that he passed through Samaria
when he didn't have to. Like,
Like, he wasn't even supposed to. It was just like, you guys aren't supposed to associate. And he like actually like evangelized to the entire village, right?
for 2 days.
Now, I'm gonna get to. Well, I'll come back to that. But I just, man, I think it's crazy that people don't understand. And you got to look at the Old Testament. So there's a ton of verses that talk about the quartet of the vulnerable: the widow, the orphan, the poor, and the immigrant / resident alien, right? And it was mandated to Israel, to the kingdom, right? So we're talking about God's chosen people, right? Their society was supposed to function where there shouldn't have been any inequality.
Zero.
God really cared about that type of justice where like king, leader, like whatever if you see anybody who's disadvantaged, the society needs to be changed, the system needs to be changed and function to where nobody's disadvantaged.
Amen.
Unfortunately, because of human sin and greed and selfishness, there was still Israel disobeyed that part of God's command. They were supposed to do it.
This is why all the prophets were coming back.
Yes,
because they kept on telling them, "Look, you have forsaken what the Lord has told us to do."
Read Isaiah,
Zechariah. Zephaniah is a really good one. Micah. These are all like
Jeremiah
books.
even talks about it.
They're like, look, you who are at the top, and this is the crazy thing. It was not just like regular people. This wasn't like politicians. They became politicians, but they were the leaders of the church. They were supposed to be the leader, the one to show everyone else how to follow Yahweh. But they got off track, which made all of the rest of the country, the rest of the civilization go off track, the nation. And you're just like, yo, if you miss it at the top, it's going to trickle down all the way down to the last person. And this is how you can even have a system of justice in our country that is anything but. Like we don't have a justice system at all. We have a vengeance system.
Yes, it's delusional calling that system criminal justice when the rich and the guilty are safer than the poor and the innocent. Shout out to propaganda.
I'm just like that. It makes me upset because it doesn't work, and I think now people are seeing that, but it's never worked.
Yeah,
this is where I'm trying to like people like even with the and this is like this is not even a shot to Donald Trump or nothing like that. But like make America great again. This is why for us as black people, we hear that and we're like,
what are you
talking about? When is America ever great? When
was it great and who was it great for?
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, and so again, Christians, talking to my Christian brothers and sisters, like if you as a believer in Jesus have faith in the America's criminal justice system, I worry about you because what you are supposed to believe as far as human depravity and evil and sin, you should have zero faith in that thing.
In any system except for
any system. It's not even in a system that was supposed to be following God. We're just talking about the kingdom of Israel. They're God's chosen people. They couldn't even get it right.
Nah.
So you definitely shouldn't trust America's system. Right. So we shouldn't be like, well, no, just wait till the facts come out. We got to trust the police know what they're doing. They're not bad guys, and which I'm not saying that they are, but it's just like, why would you not believe that there's something wrong with the system? Like, why do you think we're making it up?
Which is
I don't understand that. So
a whole group of people, but
yeah, and then getting kind of back on topic here as far as both and right. So the biggest argument, biggest pushback that's been going on for years now is just preach the gospel.
Yeah,
just evangelize, which I think Tim Keller did a great job arguing against, because you can't just do that. Jesus didn't just preach the gospel. No. He dealt with people's physical needs.
Amen.
So social justice, you can't call it a social justice gospel. Social justice is in the gospel. You can't separate them. It's literally a both and. So Christians should be the main ones worried about what's going on out there with people. And as salt and light,
amen,
we're the main ones. We should be the first ones on the scene.
All the time.
Like, hey, you're homeless. You need some help. Hey, like you've been done unjustly. Something happened to you. What do you need from me? Like, we should be the main ones, the first ones on the scene, trying to get out there into the world, get out of our freaking buildings, get out of our little salt clumps, and go and salt the world. Dude. Like, go preserve it and go flavor that thing. Go make it better. Go improve everything. So Christians should be involved in everything.
Yeah.
Right? We always say, well, no. We're in the world, but not of the world. Yes, true. We are still in that thing.
So sure enough.
We're not supposed to be monks in a monastery hiding from society. Just no, don't. And I hear this all the time, and I understand the logic, but I think you're wrong here. If you're a pastor preaching this type of stuff, like, oh no, you shouldn't go certain places anymore, and you shouldn't be doing you shouldn't be caught dead in certain places. Which is, then how are those people ever going to hear the gospel?
Ever.
Now, obviously, there's wisdom that has to come with that discernment. I can't, like, if somebody's addicted to lust and stuff like that, I'm not going to send them into a strip club to go evangelize. If somebody has alcohol problem, I'm not going to send them to a bar to go evangelize. Obviously, there's wisdom in that. But, pastor, is anybody going to go to these places?
Man, we literally teach people never go to these places.
Never. All you got to do, hey, and then this is our biggest fault, and I'm saying, all right, I'm just as guilty of this. We just got to, hey, man, you should come to my church. Hey, if I can just get you,
but I am the church.
And Uncle Rob was talking about this last Friday. And like we really feel like if I have to get you to a place to be saved, something's wrong.
Missed it.
Right? Because I am the place. So I shouldn't have to, hey, man, just come to my church. Hear my pastor. He's amazing. He be preaching, man. You got to come hear him. That'll save you. If I can just get my friends to come to my building at a certain day, a certain time, then that'll help their lives. No.
Not at all.
Like, I should be in their life as salt and light, bringing the gospel on top of meeting their physical needs.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go to somebody who got their lights cut off, they can't pay their PG&E. Hey, come to my church.
No.
Like, and pay tithes.
Pay tithes. And then the Lord will bless you.
I would love to come hear about God, but, like, I don't have any heat or light at home.
Or gas in my car. Or a car for that matter.
Yeah, like, I'm struggling here. I can't feed my kids.
And I think
okay, well, let me just preach the gospel to you, because that's all that matters.
Dude.
I don't want to hear the gospel, this good news. My life freaking sucks.
Yeah.
So we got to address, Jesus would go out.
He did both. And, like, there is a level of social justice, which means making things that are wrong right, that Jesus did, because he understood that people were hungry. But he also understood, okay, they were hungry, and then they came back the next day looking for more food, and he was like, cool, I understand your heart. Let me tell you what you really need. Let me tell. So it was always both and. Yes. It was never like either or. Like, Jesus didn't like, oh, I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna preach the gospel and I'm not gonna do any miracles, or I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna do miracles and I'm never gonna. Yeah. It was never that. Like, even I think about every time that Jesus preached, it was always backed up with some type of miracle or some type of like staple that said, look, I am going to meet this, but what you really need is this. I'm going to meet this, but what you really need is this. And you see it time and time in the Bible. And I think this is where church has like just picked one or the other out of comfort. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just want to be like preaching the gospel. I'm going to be honest. Preaching the gospel is easy. It's easier than actually meeting a physical need, because it doesn't inconvenience. For me to tell you something with my lips, bro, I can do it all day. Like, Jesus loves you. Jesus cares for you. God bless you. He's the way, the truth, and life. I can do that all day long. But can I pay someone's PG&E all day long? Nah. Can I like feed someone all day long? No. Can I take someone to the grocery store so they get the? No. But should I try? Of course.
Yes.
You should do something. There should be an action behind what you say, because if your mouth is saying that this is the good news, but your actions prove otherwise, there's no way I'm coming to your church. There's no way.
Which is what you wanted. That's not even going to happen.
No, I'm not coming.
And then the other side of the coin, we have to be careful. Like, you can't just do social stuff. I can't just do physical, because there are some people who are just like, they've made their church all about that. Like, we're just all social. And I think that's
it can't be the pinnacle. It can't be the staple of your church. Like, even for my church is heavy in the social justice realm. But I promise you're never going to get a social justice sermon without the gospel. You're never going to see acts of service from our church without the gospel. Like, we will literally stop everything and be like, hey, we forgot to preach and in the honesty of that, like, hey, we came out to do this. We got so busy with the work. Like, we don't want you guys to leave without this. So stop eating. Let me tell you why we're out here.
Yes.
Let me tell you what gave us the energy.
What's motivating us to do this?
Exactly. We don't care about you guys remembering our names, remembering our church. We don't care about none of that.
Yeah, I don't care if you come to my church and give.
You can go to any church, any church you want to. And we prefer that you go to a church in your community. So, like, you driving to our church doesn't make any sense if you live.
Go to your whatever gathering works.
Do that.
Yeah.
But we can't leave out either one of them. We can't elevate one over the other. They are the same. Like, the gospel and, like, preaching the gospel and doing the gospel on this. Like, this is what I think we kind of lost, to be honest.
Orthodoxy versus orthopraxy.
Oh.
We're very good with orthodoxy, like what we're supposed to know and believe. But orthopraxy, we're supposed to actually practice. It doesn't line up. And
we don't do it.
I mean, we did 2 weeks ago, we did that prayer walk. And that was probably one of the greatest, like, top 3 things I've ever done in AV, ever experienced in AV. And I mean, I've preached in AV, which is great. I mean, we've had great fellowships, but actually going out into the community, meeting people.
Yep.
Like, we were actually able to help this elderly Mexican couple. They're like, oh yeah, the husband had just had surgery, and they were sitting out in front on the front porch, in their gate. And we started talking to them and stuff, and they're like, yeah, we have these 2 couches here. I need them to be moved. We're hoping that my nephew comes or my grandson walks by at some point. And me and John are like, oh, we can do it. He goes, oh, really? Yeah. And so we let come in the gate. Yeah, just move them, like, to the side. And we just picked them up real quick and easy. And he was like, oh, man, thank you guys, man. I just had surgery. Like doing that,
dude. And imagine if we did that on a scale of, like, because number one, they're going to be like, that was weird. Like, some random people walking by.
They said they go to that one Valley Christian Center.
Oh, down the street. Yeah.
We were able to go out and talk to different people and tell them who we were.
Yeah.
We looked weird, number one, because people don't do that in the neighborhood. You don't walk in a group of like 10 people. You're just like, what the heck? Who are you guys? What are you doing? And we're just like, and we're just saying hi to being super nice. Everybody, hi. How you guys doing? Hey, and everybody coming outside. Like, people came out and looked at us and, like, waved awkwardly. It was amazing,
dude.
And I'm like, yo, this is us actually doing what we're supposed to be doing.
And look, and the results can be endless. And this is why I believe, like, if we are going to be a church of this generation that is going to change any type of social status, any type of, like, social justice, it has to start with us. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have to start in the church. If we, like you said this, and what really, like, made me stop talking to people outside the church about social justice is, like, the end game is never going to change on the outside.
Yeah.
Like, the problem is not laws, it's not legislation, it's not who's in office. Like, that's not the problem. The problem is our hearts, and the only person that can change hearts is God.
Yeah.
So if we are out here doing all this social, like, and I applaud all of the people who are out there protesting.
Absolutely.
Like, that is necessary. Like, we have to speak about it. We got to talk about it. We got to get it out there. But, like, if that's it, fam, we are in a world.
All right, change the law. We are good. Yeah, we thought the same thing when the Civil Rights Act in 1965. Yeah. We thought we had done something, and nothing changed.
It just changed the face.
And I do want to acknowledge, and I told this to a patient today. I was like, there's a lot of benefits that I'd be able to benefit from laws being changed.
Yeah.
Like the fact that I'm able to buy a house in a certain neighborhood and be able to go to schools, have kids go to my future kids or whatever kids go to schools that are actually good schools. I was able to go to a good white school that I would not have been able to go to back in the 60s or whatever. So, like, there's definitely some benefits to all the work that people have done out in the world with policy change and things like that. Do that. Go for it. But what we have been wrong on, what we messed up on, what we got our hopes up on, was that people would actually stop being racist. We actually thought that, like, I've been saying this all the time. Man, it's 2020 and people are still like this. Why are we surprised?
What did you do?
Has anyone's heart been changed on a massive level? No. So why are we surprised that people are still racist?
Yeah.
You can change all the laws you want.
Yeah, but you're going to keep coming back to the same exact problem.
Yeah.
Which is sin. And that's a God problem. It's not a human problem. So, I mean, it's a human problem, but it's only God's only answer for that problem. If we are going to if we're going to change anything, let's start with ourselves. And I want to be honest with all of our listeners. Like, every podcast challenges me. Last podcast, I said I was going to go to the homeless people that were on the side of the freeway. I haven't went, just to let you guys know. And none of you guys hit me up. So I just want to let you know, like, I have no accountability partners. But it has to, like, even the fact that I remember that, the fact that I am, like, even me saying, I know I said it in a joking way, but it hurts a little bit thinking, like, they're still there. And I'm still, like, comfortable. And I just want to do something small. It's not huge. It's not gigantic. It's something small that I can change in my own life right now that could benefit someone else. This is what justice looks like. And if I'm going to do that, for me to go to these homeless people with food is great. But if I just go with food, it doesn't matter. Like, they're going to eat and then they're going to be hungry again. But if I can tell them about Jesus, if I can give
the
them
bread of life that they will never hunger or thirst.
They will never hunger or thirst again. And they will be on, I believe, on a path to like real reconciliation and like being able to be put back into society in the right way. Yeah.
Life that Jesus was talking about.
Like, I don't know what is going to actually come out of that. Like, I don't know if they're going to, be able to buy a house one day or nothing like that. But all I do know that they will have a different perspective on life.
Yes.
They will understand that this isn't even the end. A lot of people
I'm not going through life alone.
No. It's like, if you need, and then that's another thing, like being able to tell somebody, hey, if you need something, like, just let me know. I don't have all the money. Like, people can know that. They can know that you can't fix every need. Like, Jesus was
by
awesome.
Yourself.
By myself.
But
I can't.
If we have a real community of people,
dude,
a real church with resources,
we could really make things happen.
A society should not exist really and truly. Obviously, this is not going to happen because humans are broken. But there's really no excuse for poverty and homelessness and all that stuff. There really isn't.
There's enough money. There's enough food. There's enough food that gets thrown away to feed. The fact that we have laws that prohibit companies from giving food away at the end of the day is ridiculous. I worked at Starbucks and we could not physically give homeless people food that we were about to throw in the trash. And because my manager was a Christian, she would say, like, okay, we're going to put all this food nice and neat and put it in bags and then put it in a trash bag. And we're going to put the trash bag, like, by this one location, by the trash can, but it's not in the trash can, so that the homeless people that lived near our Starbucks would eat. But her mind was like, I can't even believe, like, I can get fired for trying to feed people food that I'm about to throw away. That it's not like food that people have eaten. It's the food that we put in the refrigerator for display or for whatever. It's still perfectly fine.
Yep.
But because, like, either today's the expiration date or the expiration,
they don't want lawsuits.
They don't want lawsuits.
Stuff like that. Yeah, man. I mean,
it's ridiculous.
It is. There's really no reason. Man, God has created this creation with enough.
More than
there
enough.
Really is enough. And he talks about abundant life. I heard this. I forgot where. And it made me emotional in a good way. I think it was on the Bible Project.
Oh, the generosity episode?
Well, yes, that was crazy. The podcast, that was crazy. Anyway, no, I was listening to a podcast by Bible Project. They're talking about something. I think it was parables. But Tim Mackey said something on there that just, like, I never really considered. And he said, like, God's ultimate purpose is life. He is a being that all he wants to do is create life. Like, he's obsessed with life. And I'm like, yo, like, he really is. Like, being close to him, being connected to him. He's life. All about life, like making life. And when his creation that he brought life to messed up the creation, he has to now destroy that and then bring new life. All he worries about is making life.
Wow.
And it's like,
and then he has to set in rules and parameters so that life is preserved. So if he doesn't do that, then obviously death is going to enter regardless. But if he says, like, look, this is what you do so you don't die. He literally told Adam and Eve that about the tree. Like, once you eat of this, you will die.
And then he's even like, okay, now that you've brought death, and I even have a plan for that to result in life.
Dude.
Like, God only cares about life. And not just, like, surviving. And I'm not even talking about, like, being rich. I'm not talking about no prosperity gospel. I'm talking about, like, life to the fullest, which is another translation for abundant life, is like living a life full of joy and peace
and purpose
and family and purpose. Like, having people around me that truly care about that I can actually call a family, which is what you talked about at the beginning of this podcast, which I want to jump back to because it was so powerful. Like, if we really keep using this word family, Christians, like, let's freaking do it
on a real level.
Like, we talked about this last episode about family. Like, let's be real family members, like better family members.
Yeah.
That is talking about your neighbor, your brother, like the person that I see as a fellow human being, like fellow image bearer. It should crush me to see you in any state lower than what you should be.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? And you can, well, how do you determine what you should be? Is it a certain amount of income? No. I'm talking about like human beings being like dejected, like driving by my job in Southeast Fresno and seeing the people that are homeless. And, oh man,
it really,
like,
as it should. You
like
should
seeing a human being like looking inhuman,
mm-hmm.
like all like just messed up and dirty and sick and whatever the case may be, and just
in need.
And you look at their face and just the hopelessness.
Mm-hmm.
Like they are just like literally existing.
Yeah.
Like I just have this is just me
every day. I might as well be a
out.
basket. I might as well
and
be
people
a
don't.
wall.
I'm invisible to people. Like no one cares about me. It's just like, man, like if all of the Christians, if all the salt in this world would really do its job and fulfill its purpose,
man.
like we would be able to give people that life to the fullest, that abundant life that Jesus wants everybody to have.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes through doing justice. So like meeting people's physical needs and giving them the good news that their creator came down and dealt with the thing that was keeping them separated from him so that they could be connected to him so they could have life.
Man, which is true. I mean, I'm going to be real. I don't have all the money in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff doesn't have all the money in the world. But I guarantee you, like, my life is for real fulfilled.
Yes.
Like, I'm not in want of anything. I barely need anything.
Psalm 23.
Like,
Lord is my shepherd. I don't have any want for anything because he's my shepherd. Even when I can't pay my bills, even when I'm like my car breaks down, I can't afford. Like, it's not about my financial circumstance or like my circumstance. It's who I'm connected to.
Because I know that he'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I don't understand, like I said in the beginning of the podcast, I may not understand his methods, but I can never question his motive. He has never let me down.
Yeah.
Like when I think about God, he has never once given me any reason not to trust him, ever. But for some reason, money has let me down, but I keep running back to it. Like things like lust has let me down. The pride of life has let me down. All these things that I've like material things I've wanted and I've like attained at one point, it's like, man, this is great. And then it just,
man, human love, relationships with humans can let you down.
Dude, but the thing is, like, one thing since I've been a true believer, I've never lost hope. I've never like been like, God, you're just not there. Like I've said like, God, I feel like you're not there, but in my mind, God, I know you're there. I know you're standing right next to me. I know that you're walking with me. And I know that you have a plan to like make this work out however you're going to make it work out.
As horrible and dark as it is.
Dude.
I'm thinking about our brother, man, that's going through some stuff right now, man. It's going through a very difficult time that literally, if I'm honest, like shook my faith. I literally was like, God, why? What are you doing? Like, why would you do that? But ultimately, I end up coming back. He brings me back to like, just trust me.
Yeah.
I know it looks like awful, but just trust me. I know what I'm doing.
And he does. Like, and the thing is, like, to remember that we're not the first people to go through stuff like this. There is nothing new under the sun.
Yep.
We were not the first ones. God is not like, oh snap, I missed that. How did that happen? Never. Like, we trip out because we have a lack of faith.
Yeah.
The disciples in the boat were tripping out because they thought they were gonna drown with Jesus in the boat. The crazy thing is, I'm like, Jesus ain't gonna drown.
Yeah.
Like, and then they ask, like, you don't care if we perish? And he's like, this is not how I'm going out. Like, you don't know the full plan. You don't know everything. So like, if truly this is something that we have to get to a place where we're not worried as believers. What Jesus literally tells us, like, what can you do by worrying? Nothing. When I got the news about our friend, it rocked me, bro. Like, it rocked me. And I was like in a depression.
I was shook yesterday.
Bro. I told Jess and she was crying like for hours. And I'm thinking like I was in that same state, so I had to give her like space, and I had to like I didn't want to say it's like you have to grieve, you have to feel,
Yes.
you have to be in that. But like I just don't want you to lose hope in that. And what I had to remember was communion. That song is just so fire to me. So I'm like, here's where the dead things come back to living.
Yes.
That part. But
God's
then
all
at
about
the
life, man.
and then at the end, when they start singing "What a Friend We Have in Jesus," and it says, "What peace we often forfeit
what needless pains we bear
because we don't carry
to Jesus, to everything to God in prayer."
Like the thing with that, like when I heard the news, I mean, I kind of like went off on God a little bit.
Yeah, but you took it to him. That's what I did.
Yeah,
I was in my car driving back home. I was just like, how I'm feeling right now. Like I don't get what you're doing, bro. I don't understand.
I was like, God, this makes no sense. Like, why would you do this? But then, like, for 2 days, I'm like having this conversation. But I never. So like, I think it's Psalms 13. The one that I had read to you, and I was like, it was like, how long, Lord? How long will my enemies? And I was like reading it. I was like, man, yeah, this is exactly how I feel. Yeah. At the end of that psalm, David's like, but yet I still trust you. God. Nevertheless, you have been faithful. Like I will continue. And I think what got me over, which I know it was in my laundry room putting clothes in the dryer, and that song it was coming in my head like, what peace we forfeit. What senseless pain we bear. Like God is like, fam, that's you. Like you are bearing this right now because you won't give it to me. Like you're trying to feel it, and I don't know why. Yeah. And I'm like, you know what? I don't know why either. So I was like, God, I don't want to feel this. Like just you take it and help me to trust you, fam. I promise you, in that exact moment, I was like, oh snap, I'm hungry. Like I was ready to eat. I was ready to ready to get my life back on track. Yeah. And it changed from that moment. So I know, like, even with this whole social justice, evangelism, all this type of stuff, like these things seem impossible. Like they'll never end.
They're overwhelming to think that how can we do so? How can we actually bring real change? But it's like God's not asking us to that.
No,
God's asking us to be faithful and to do what He's told us to do. Do justice, be salt. Like bring justice with you in your gospel. Meet people's physical needs and their spiritual need at the same time. Bring both with you. There's no conflict between the two. Like they are the two sides of the same coin. So just bring the coin with you.
Just bring the whole coin.
Bring it with you, man. Be that salt. Like Christians, let's get out of our buildings. Let's get out of our bubbles, and let's. First, before we go out, let's get ourselves in order. Let's get our family together. Let's make sure we are on the same page and that we recognize that there is a problem. And let's do that in the church first. Once we're all on the same page and we're all united in Christ and we're all in oneness, then we can go out and be salt and light.
So true.
We gotta get our house in order first before we can.
How can a man run the house of God if he can't run his own house well? How can the church help society if the church is not helping itself well?
Amen.
So that's all we got.
Yeah, man. So obviously we are inhuman. We are human and we are imperfect is what I meant to say. Completely. So there's plenty of things that we say in the moment that are sometimes just pure emotion. This is where we're at in this moment today. It could change literally after we cut this off. But we appreciate you guys giving us grace and giving up your time to listen to us, watch us, whatever your case you're doing with this. We love the interaction. Please go and subscribe to our YouTube channel, guys. Yeah. It's there.
Yeah.
We're putting a lot of effort into our brother Josiah's putting a lot of effort into this. Like, go check it out, man. Like, get that thing bumping, share that. Not everybody can listen to a podcast for an hour, but you can watch videos. You can pause it. It's a little bit more interactive when you're seeing our faces and seeing what we're saying. Yeah. When we're saying it. So, like, share that thing. Go check it out.
Yep. Share. Hey, I wonder if Josiah can do one of those things like, oh, click here. I don't know. Just wanted to try it out. But anyways, so this has been our hour. We appreciate you guys. We love you, and we'll see you.
See you on the next one. Peace.
Bye.